Hi guys, ArchieLuxury. Go to f2bbs.com. www.f2bbs.com. The last bastion of free speech on the interweb. That's right, guys. I want you to go to www.f2bbs.com. That's right. I want you to go there. You can, this is a great site to fight against all sorts of nastiness by posting on f2bbs.com, the last bastion of free speech on the interweb. Go there, guys. Hey guys, it's your pontiff, ArchieLuxury on the ArchieLuxury channel. Today, guys, quick wristwatch check, Rolex Submariner. Guys, today I want to talk about building a collection when Rolex is so difficult to obtain and there's a massive premium. What do you do? What do you do? And I gotta tell you, it's interesting. I was very much ahead of the curve. In the late 90s, I had a 5-piece collection. I had a Rolex Day-Date 18238. There was no 40 mil. There was only one size then, 36. I had a Submariner 16610. I had an Explorer 2 Polar 16570. I had a two-tone Datejust 16013, and as my beater, I had a 16800 Submariner Date as a beater. Now, due to financial reasons, I had to sell it. But at the time, nobody really had multiple Rolexes. Collections back then were a lot smaller. Most people would have a collection 3 or 4 watches, 5 or 6 at the most. Now, of course, we've become so much wealthier in the last 20 years and the collections have exploded. Now, the thing is, I've got to tell you, we've got an anomaly here where Rolex is so expensive. Rolex is so expensive. To give you an idea, the wristwatch I'm wearing here, the Submariner, this is the new 41 mil 126610 LN. This is the new Submariner Date. It retails for about 10,000 US. Well, guess what? That's from Rolex. But if you want to buy it from a dealer secondhand on the pre-owned market, you're looking at somewhere between 14 and 15,000 US dollars. So it's expensive. It's no longer cheap. What do you do? See, the problem is you get one of these, so that's 15,000. I don't know about you, Sunshine, but that's a lot of money for a lower middle class guy with kids and a wife. What do you do? See, so normally when we were building a collection, you'd say, right, I want a Submariner. I want a GMT function watch. And you'd start looking at GMT Master 2s, maybe an Explorer 2. And then you'd look at a chronograph, then you'd look at a dressy sort of watch, like a Datejust or a gold precious metal thing. So that's kind of how you would grow the collection beforehand. I gotta be honest with you, this day and age now, what do? Well, I'd give you a few different alternatives. One view is you could say, righto, I got a Rolex, one watch per brand. Yeah, one watch per brand. And I'd highly recommend trying to stay with the icons. So if somebody's got a Submariner Date or no date, you then say, righto, add on a Tudor Pepsi, that could be your GMT. Add on a Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon as your chronograph. Add on a JJ LeCoultre, maybe a Master Control or a Reverso as your dressy watch. So basically you've got one Rolex that takes the hit, that's expensive. Everything else you can sort of get a bit of a discount for. So I think that's a great idea. So one watch per brand. Now the other idea instead of having multiple functions in each watch, what about if you decide, right, I'm going to be a dive watch collector? Dive watch collector. So you would say, okay, I got a Submariner. You get a Tudor Black Bay. You would get a Omega Seamaster, the Seamaster Professional. You would get maybe a Breitling Super Ocean Heritage. You get a PAM. You could probably get an IWC Aqua Timer. You could get every brand seems to have a diver. So if diving watches are your genre, yes, you'd have a Rolex sub, of course. That's the king of divers. But you could very nicely, that could be the theme you take, because you're going to get the Black Bay. Tudor Black Bay isn't ridiculous money. The Omega Seamaster, you could pick that up at a really big discount. You could get, you wouldn't buy that new, you'd buy that pre-owned. The Breitling, you could get a Breitling. The Steel Fishes, they are very cheap. The Breitling Heritage 2, I like them. You could get it with an ETA or a Tudor movement. Again, very reasonable. You could get PAMs. Certain PAMs are discounted. So I would say, whereas in the past you could have built a nice Rolex collection, right? You have 3 or 4 Rolexes. Because Rolex is so cost prohibitive, because they're so hard to get and so expensive, you kind of get one Rolex and be done. One and done! One Rolex and that's it, because Rolex is no longer affordable. They're very expensive. Now, I still think you've got to have a Rolex. Every watch collector worth his salt needs a Rolex. Now, I said you don't need a Rolex if you've got a Patek. Well, that's sort of true, but I think you still need the Rolex, because the Rolex is so... You just need every man needs a Rolex. I was wrong, okay? I had psychiatric problems, okay? I had mental problems. I didn't realize that every man needs a Rolex. You need one. You don't need to have 10 of them. You don't need 5 of them. You don't need 2. One Rolex. One Rolex, please. One Rolex. You do need a Rolex. You need a Rolex. That's what you need. Every man needs a Rolex. That's correct. You need a Rolex. If you don't have it, if you don't have a Rolex, you're very, very stuffed. You're very stuffed. You got to have a Rolex. But I got to tell you, that's how I built a collection. See, in the past, I loved Rolex. I thought they were good value. Now they're very expensive. And the truth is, I think you can get very disillusioned. You can't, these games the ADs play, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I'd rather say, right, I have one Rolex, maybe 2. If you're really lucky, if you're rich, maybe have 2. But 1 is enough, and then go on to a different theme. That's what I think you should do, because playing the Rolex game, I gotta be honest with you, I think it's wrong to hog all the Rolexes from the other collectors. I think, maybe that's not the way to do things, because every Rolexes that you keep, every Roli that you have additional to the one, it makes it harder for other enthusiastic. I don't know, maybe that's being a bit, maybe that's a bit Bernie Sanders in the thinking. But what I'm saying is, if you want to build a collection, you don't just have to buy Rolexes. There's other things you can do. I think one watch per brand is a great idea. Then you get to sample different brands. I think the other option is be a dive collector. That's also 1 watch per brand, but it's also you're concentrating on dive watches. I mean, also dive watches, you could also add a Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko makes a great dive watch. There's so many interesting ways to do it. So I think with the hobby, of course Rolex is so expensive and unobtainable. I mean, I don't want to join bullshit waiting lists. You know, lying, bullshit waiting lists. That's not for me. That's really not for me. I'd like to just be honest and say, you know what? Get one Rolex, pay the piper, pay the piper. Go to David SW, go to a dealer, pay the premium and be done. Because, believe you me, there's no point kissing the AD's ass. They will feed you a crop of lies. They're not your friends. Just buy one from an AD, pay the price, and move on. That's what I would do, guys. Okay, guys, there's a few ideas for you. Tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and don't be afraid to put some comments below. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you. Hi, guys. ArchieLuxury. And who do I recommend in America? In America, who do I recommend for quality pre-owned wristwatches? David SW, David SW, David SW. Go to davidsw.com. He is the best, the greatest pre-owned dealer in all of the United States of America. David SW, David SW, David SW. Hey guys, ArchieLuxury. Who do I recommend for watches in Brisbane and Sydney? Vintage Watch Co. That's correct. Vintage Watch Co. in Brisbane Arcade in Brisbane and the Strand Arcade in Sydney. Vintage Watch Co. Brisbane and Sydney. Ronnie, I've known him since the late 90s. Ronnie is a top bloke. Luke is a great guy. Vintage Watch Co. That is who I recommend in Australia. Check out Vintage Watch Co. and the guys' amazing range of watches. They also do service and repairs. Vintage Watch Co. That is where the pontiff goes. You know, some of my Pateks came from Vintage Watch Co. That's right, guys. Vintage Watch Co.